You're tapped into GNN, the global news network, a digital platform of Totown Communications Company Limited, Japan. You're streaming an episode of Japan Journal with Mal Adams. Your subscription to this YouTube channel is greatly appreciated. Thank you.
The Greek philosopher, Plato, famously said, quote, "Knowledge which is acquired under compulsion obtains no hold on the mind." End quote. Brother Malcolm in Japan famously said, quote, "Brothers and sisters, let us recognize the importance of freedom in the pursuit of knowledge and enlightenment. In a world that often seeks to impose its will upon us, our quest for knowledge and understanding must be driven by curiosity, passion, and a thirst for truth. Let us not be satisfied with mere rote memorization and regurgitation of facts, but instead, let us seek to truly understand the world around us and our place within it. For it is through the pursuit of knowledge on our own terms that we gain a deeper understanding of ourselves and the world we inhabit." End quote. These short sermons are crafted to resonate with African Americans who seek inspiration and guidance in their ongoing struggle for freedom, justice, and equality in the United States, drawing upon the timeless wisdom of Plato's quotes, with analysis by Brother Malcolm, to uplift and empower their journey. And now, dear friends and subscribers of Japan Journal, here's your host, Mal Adams.
Good day, brothers and sisters, wherever you are from around the world. You tapped into GNN, the Global News Network, an online platform of Totown digital media. You're watching Japan Journal, the internet's #1 weekly English language online cybercast from Japan, with your host, Mal Adams. Plato said, "The price good men pay for indifference to public affairs is to be ruled by evil men." He was a great Greek philosopher with a lot of knowledge, and we're here to discuss some of his more famous quotes on tonight's edition of Japan Journal. Dear brothers and sisters, let us not turn a blind eye to the injustices that surround us in this day and time, for in doing so, we become complicit in the oppression of our fellow human beings. In a world that often seeks to distract and divide us, our engagement and involvement in public affairs is our greatest defense against tyranny and oppression. Let us not stand idly by while others suffer, but instead, let us stand up and speak out against injustice, knowing that our silence only emboldens the forces of evil. For it is through our active participation in public affairs that we safeguard our freedoms and secure a better future for ourselves and generations to come. Please subscribe, like, share, and comment on this YouTube channel. And click the bell icon so that you can be notified of upcoming programs. Thank you very much for your participation. And now, our program. All right, we're back, and let us begin our program tonight. And we're talking about tailoring certain comments to a selected few of Plato's greatest quotes that speak to the condition of life in the world today, in my opinion. And our comments are crafted to resonate with African Americans in particular and other people of color who around the world may be oppressed and suppressed, and who strive for freedom, justice, and equality in the United States and where else they may be in the world. The first quote is, "The measure of a man is what he does with power." Well, my brothers and sisters, in a world where power has often been wielded as a tool of oppression, let us remember that true greatness lies not in the accumulation of power, but in its righteous application. As we navigate systems that speak to marginalize us, let us use whatever power we possess to uplift and empower our communities, to advocate for justice, and to challenge injustice wherever it may lurk. For it is in the responsible and compassionate use of power that we truly measure our worth and impact on the world. All right. Plato also said, and I quote, "The first and greatest victory is to conquer yourself." Now, beloved brothers and sisters, as we march toward freedom and equality, let us not overlook the most important battle of all, the battle within ourselves. In a society and a world that seeks to diminish our worth and diminish our spirits, our greatest triumph is in conquering our own fears, doubts, and insecurities. Let us rise above the limitations imposed upon us and embrace our inner strength and resilience. For it is only by conquering ourselves that we pave the way for true liberation and empowerment. Plato said, "Ignorance, the root and stem of all evil." Think about that. Dear friends, knowledge is the light that illuminates the path to freedom and justice, in my opinion. And in a world that thrives on ignorance and misinformation, let us seek truth, enlightenment, and understanding. Let us educate ourselves about our history, our rights, and the systems of oppression that seek to keep us down. For it is only by confronting ignorance head on that we can dismantle the chains that bind us and forge a brighter future for ourselves and generations to come. Next, we talk about wise men who speak because they have something to say. And Plato said, "Fools speak because they have to say something." Well, all I can think about to add to that is that we must let our voices be guided by wisdom and purpose. In a society that often seeks to silence us, let us speak out against injustice with clarity, courage, and conviction. Let us use our voices to amplify the voices of the marginalized, to challenge oppressive systems, and to demand accountability from those in power. We've got an election coming up very soon in a few months. For it is through our words and actions that we sow the seeds of change and pave the way for a more just and equitable society. He who commits injustice is ever made more wretched than he who suffers it. Another great quote from Plato. My dear brothers and sisters, as we strive for justice and equality, let us remember that true happiness cannot be found in the oppression of others. Those who perpetrate injustice may wield temporary power, but in the end, they only bring misery upon themselves. Let us hold fast to our principles of justice, compassion, and equality, knowing that our commitment to righteousness will ultimately lead to our liberation. As we fight for justice, let us do so with integrity and righteousness, knowing that our cause is just and our victory is assured. Next quote, Plato said, "The heaviest penalty for declining to rule is to be ruled by someone inferior to yourself." Now, this was quite profound, and I broke it down to analyze it accordingly. In the struggle for freedom and equality, let us not shy away from leadership and responsibility, for to abdicate our role in shaping our collective destiny is to invite the tyranny of those who are unworthy to lead. Oh, we've seen that happen in recent times, haven't we? Let us rise to the challenge of governance with wisdom, compassion, and integrity, knowing that a refusal to lead leaves the door open for those who would exploit and oppress us. Think about it. Think about the upcoming election with Donald Trump, Biden, and Robert Kennedy Jr. Let us embrace our duty to govern ourselves and our communities. For in doing so, we secure our own liberation and empower future generations to do the same. Next, we talk about good people do not need laws to tell them to act responsibly, while bad people will find a way around the laws. Plato also is quoted as saying that. My brothers and sisters, let us remember that true morality comes from within, not from external laws or regulations. In our pursuit of justice and righteousness, let us be guided by our own moral compass and conscience. For it is the goodness of our hearts and the righteousness of our actions that truly define us, not the laws imposed upon us by others. Let us strive to live lives of integrity, compassion, and responsibility, knowing that our goodness will always shine through regardless of the obstacles we may face. Isn't that true? Isn't that true of us today? Just look online on social media and look at the madness, the vitriol, the cancellation, the hate, and the antagonistic communications since the advent of social media. We got to stop it and rethink that. Plato also said courage is knowing what not to fear. Well, my dear brothers and sisters, in the face of adversity and oppression, something we know a lot about, let us be guided by courage and conviction. True courage is not the absence of fear, but the willingness to stand firm in the face of injustice, knowing that our cause is just and our hearts are true. Let us not be intimidated by the powers that seek to oppress us, but instead let us draw strength from our resilience and determination. For it is through our courage that we pave the way for a brighter future for ourselves and generations to come. Plato also is famously quoted as saying, one of the penalties for refusing to participate in politics is that you end up being governed by your inferiors. Oh, let's think about that one. You see, my beloved brothers and sisters, let us not underestimate the power of political engagement and participation. In a democracy that is meant to be of the people, by the people, and for the people, our voices and votes are our most potent weapons for change. You got to know that. Let us not sit idly by while others make decisions that affect our lives and our communities. For to refuse to participate in politics is simply to relinquish our power and agency to those who would exploit and oppress us. Let us seize our rightful place at the table of governance, for it is only through active participation that we can truly shape our collective destiny and secure our own liberation. This is quote number 10 for today's program, which says, we can easily forgive a child who is afraid of the dark. The real tragedy of life is when men are afraid of the light. Thank you, Plato, for saying that. You see, let us not be afraid to confront the darkness that lurks within our society and within ourselves. A lot of that going on these days and in these times. In a world that often seeks to obscure the truth and perpetuate injustice, our willingness to shine a light on the darkest corners of our society is our greatest weapon for change. Let us not be afraid to speak out against oppression, to challenge injustice, and to demand accountability from those in power. For it is only by facing the truth head on that we can overcome the darkness and pave the way for a brighter future for ourselves and generations to come. The greatest wealth, Plato said, is to live content with little. Let me repeat that. The greatest wealth, everybody chasing the bag these days, but you got to know in your heart of hearts that the greatest wealth, according to Plato, is to live content with little. You see, in a society that often equates wealth with worth, we got to remember that true riches lie not in material possessions, but in the contentment of the heart and the richness of the soul. Let us not be seduced by the trappings of wealth and luxury, but instead let us find fulfillment in the simple pleasures of life and the richness of human connection. For it is in embracing simplicity and gratitude that we find true and abundance and richness in our lives, okay? I cannot emphasize that enough. Next, we talk about excess. Well, Plato says excess generally causes reaction and produces a change in the opposite direction, whether it be in the seasons or in individuals or in governments. Excess. Let's think about it. What is he saying? I think he's telling us to be mindful of the consequences of excess in imbalance in our lives and in our society. In a world that often glorifies excess and indulgence, let us strive for balance, moderation, and harmony. For it is through the pursuit of balance and moderation that we find stability and sustainability in our lives and in our communities. Let us not be swayed by the temptations of excess, but instead let us seek balance and equilibrium in all that we do. Here's a quote that I love from Plato. He says, "No one is more hated than he who speaks the truth." Well, listen, you got to understand that. You must not be deterred by the hatred and hostility that may come our way as we speak truth to power. In a world that often seeks to silence dissent and suppress the truth, our willingness to speak out against injustice is our greatest strength. Let us not be intimidated by those who would seek to silence us, but instead let us speak out boldly and unapologetically against oppression and injustice. For it is through our courage and conviction that we pave the way for a more just and equitable society, don't you think? All right. Plato also said very wisely, check this one out. He said, there is no harm in repeating a good thing. Simple, but quite astute, isn't it? There is no harm in repeating a good thing. You know, brothers and sisters, we got to not grow weary in doing good. For in due season, we shall reap the rewards of our labor. In a world that often seeks to diminish our efforts and undermine our progress, our steadfast commitment to righteousness and justice is our greatest asset. Let me give that again from the top. What he's saying here is, let us not grow weary in doing good, for in due season we shall reap the rewards of our labor. In a world that often seeks to diminish our efforts and undermine our progress, our steadfast commitment to righteousness and justice is our greatest asset. Let us not be discouraged by the obstacles we face, but instead let us press on in our pursuit of justice and equality, knowing that every act of goodness and kindness brings us one step closer to the world we envision. Okay? All right. Quote number 15. Justice means minding one's own business and not meddling with other men's concerns. Woo-hoo. Let me say that again. Justice means minding one's own business and not meddling with other men's concerns. Well, My beloved community, let us strive to live lives of integrity and righteousness, honoring the dignity and autonomy of every individual. In a world that often seeks to impose its will upon others, let us respect the rights and the freedoms of all people, regardless of their race, religion, or background. And let us not be swayed by the temptations of power and control, but instead let us embrace the principles of justice and equality in all our dealings. For it is through our commitment to justice and fairness that we build a society founded on mutual respect and understanding. Plato also famously said, shortly, briefly, and succinctly, that, quote, at the touch of love, everyone becomes a poet, including your brother Mal in Japan. Yes, I do. Because I'm surrounded by love and appreciation. Let me give you that one again. Think about it. Plato said that at the touch of love, everyone becomes a poet. Well, what he's saying here is, let us never underestimate the transformative power of love in our lives and in our communities. In a world that often seems cold and indifferent, our capacity to love and be loved is our greatest gift. Let us cultivate love and compassion in our hearts, reaching out to those in need and standing in solidarity with the marginalized and oppressed among us. For it is through acts of love and kindness that we bring light and warmth into the world, illuminating the path to a brighter future for all. And finally, my dear brothers and sisters, I'm going to finish with this famous quote by Plato, who said, "The price good men pay for indifference to public affairs is to be ruled by evil men." My beloved brothers and sisters, let us not turn a blind eye to the injustices that surround us, for in doing so, we become complicit in the oppression of our fellow human beings. In a world that often seeks to distract and divide us, our engagement and involvement in public affairs is our greatest defense against tyranny and oppression. Let us not stand idly by while others suffer, but instead, let us stand up and speak out against injustice, knowing that our silence only emboldens the forces of evil. For it is through our active participation in public affairs that we safeguard our freedoms and secure a better future for ourselves and generations to come. I feel like moving on. I've got a few more Plato quotes to share with you. So let's continue. Y'all all right? Okay. Here's what I think you're going to resonate with. It says, quote, "The direction in which education starts a man will determine his future life." Well, what he's saying here is that we've got to recognize the transformative power of education in shaping our lives and our communities. In a world that often seeks to deny us access to knowledge and opportunity, our commitment to learning and enlightenment is our greatest weapon against oppression and injustice. Let us invest in the education of ourselves and our children, knowing that knowledge is the key to unlocking our full potential and achieving our dreams. For it is through education that we break the chains of ignorance and build a brighter future for ourselves and generations to come. And you got to know that's what we're trying to do here on this edition of Japan Journal, is to create better knowledge and understanding and achieve our dreams by doing so. To continue, I love this particular quote, and I'd like to go a bit deeper with you. It's short and sweet, but it says, quote, "The soul of man is immortal and imperishable." Wow. Well, let's take comfort in the knowledge that our souls are eternal and indestructible. in a world that often seeks to diminish our worth and extinguish our spirits. Our faith in the immortality of the soul is our greatest source of strength and resilience. Let us not be deterred by the trials and tribulations of this world, and there are plenty of them, as you know, in these days and times. But instead, let us draw strength from the knowledge that our souls are eternal and our spirits unbreakable. For it is through our faith and perseverance that we overcome adversity and achieve true liberation of the soul. Plato also said famously that knowledge, which is acquired under compulsion, obtains no hold on the mind. What's he talking about here? Well, I believe that he wants us to recognize the importance of freedom in the pursuit of knowledge and enlightenment in a world that often seeks to impose its will upon us through propaganda and whatever means. Our quest for knowledge and understanding must be driven by curiosity, passion, and a thirst for truth. Let us not be satisfied with mere rote memorization and regurgitation of facts, but instead let us seek to truly understand the world around us and our place within it. That's one of the goals of this episode of Japan Journal tonight, for it is through the pursuit of knowledge on our own terms that we gain a deeper understanding of ourselves and the world we inhabit. I thank you for joining us tonight, because that's exactly what we're trying to accomplish here. I want you to join us and understand and feel us as we're trying to impart these knowledgeable and wise quotations from a great Greek philosopher known as Plato. I thank you for joining us. I appreciate you recognizing the fact that these particular analyses are crafted to resonate with the African American community in particular, who seek inspiration and guidance in our ongoing struggle for freedom, justice, and equality in the United States and around the world, drawing upon the timeless wisdom of Plato's quotes to uplift and empower their journey. Thank you very much for joining us on Japan Journal, the internet's #1 weekly English language online cybercast from Japan, with yours truly, Brother Malcolm in Japan. And I bid you a good day.
The price good men pay for indifference to public affairs is to be ruled by evil men. Plato. Brothers and sisters, let us not turn a blind eye to the injustices that surround us, for in doing so, we become complicit in the oppression of our fellow human beings. In a world that often seeks to distract and divide us, our engagement and involvement in public affairs is our greatest defense against tyranny and oppression. Let us not stand idly by while others suffer, but instead, let us stand up and speak out against injustice, knowing that our silence only emboldens the forces of evil. For it is through our active participation in public affairs that we safeguard our freedoms and secure a better future for ourselves and generations to come.
You're tapped into GNN, the Global News Network, a digital platform of Totown Communications Company Limited, Japan. You're streaming an episode of Japan Journal with Mal Adams. Your subscription to this YouTube channel is greatly appreciated. Thank you.